So one thing I keep meaning to talk about is the Eleusinian Mysteries of ancient Greece. It keeps nagging me. It's something that's been popping up in my mind for the better part of a year now, that I should comment on this, just because I stumble upon it once in a while. I read a lot about it a long time ago. And I remember a good portion of it, of the things I've read, but again, a lot of it's rambling around up here in this brain pan. So these were some ancient rites, rituals, and festivities that took place back in ancient Greece, based around the story of Persephone, the abduction of Persephone. Persephone being the goddess of the spring, and her mother, being Demeter, was the goddess of the harvest and agriculture, and she made everything grow. And so the story goes that one day Hades, the god of the underworld, saw Persephone and took a fancy to her, and went to his brother Zeus, the king of the gods, the Olympian gods, and was like, "Yo, bro, help me hit that. I want to tap that." And Zeus was like, I don't know what you want me to do about it. Like, our sister, she's gonna lose her shit if you try anything with her daughter. Plus, she's our niece. I don't really have room to talk, but this is how I imagine that conversation going. So Zeus basically told Hades, just abduct her. Just kidnap her, take her. Who gives a shit? Like Demeter will ever know. And what's she gonna do? Come to the underworld to get her? Because typically, it's pretty well understood that not a lot of people and gods really didn't go down in the underworld. The few gods that really went down there and could come back up, because once you went down there, you really couldn't come back. So even Zeus was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not going down there. Fuck that shit." So the few who could go down there and come back were Hades, obviously, because he ruled the underworld. Hermes, because he was the messenger of the god. He got a special pass. Hecate, my namesake goddess, she would ferry the dead down there. And also she plays a big role in the story of Persephone. She comforted Persephone when she was taken down there. And Persephone herself. So as far as I know, those are the only four who could really just go in and out of the underworld as they pleased. And everybody else pretty much just stayed out of there if they could manage it. The gods didn't really want to go down there. The people definitely didn't want to have to go down there, unless they were trying to bring a loved one back. There's that story. But typically, yeah, if you went down, you weren't coming back up. So most people didn't go down there. Anyway, yeah, so Hades did just that. He popped up out of a crack in the ground. He turned up like a bad penny from the shadows and grabbed Persephone and pulled her into his chariot and took her down in the underworld. And the story goes, she was crying out, for help, calling for her mother. And Demeter heard her daughter's cries and came looking for her daughter, and she was gone. And then Demeter went around, asking everybody and looking everywhere for her daughter. She was very distraught. And eventually Hecate came forward and said, I might know a thing or two about what happened to Persephone, and helped Demeter to kind of determine basically what was going on. And they went to Apollo, also the sun god, and said, "Yo, you see everything. Your light shines on everything. What happened?" And apparently the sun god was like, "Yeah, sorry, your daughter's down in the underworld with Hades right now. Like, her uncle decided to marry her." And I think he said something along the lines also of like, she could do worse. Yeah, he is. He does rule over a pretty impressive domain down there. So maybe don't be too disappointed. She married well, I guess. I mean, he is kind of like king of the undead type of vibe going on, but she's, she's a queen down there, is what he was saying. And but that did nothing to make Demeter feel any better. And so she just, the story, she basically just roamed and was very distraught and very sad. She became very angry and bitter, and didn't do her job as a goddess. She didn't cause the crops to grow, and there was great famine, and many people died. And so then the gods were like, "Yo, Zeusy, we gotta fix this. This is no bueno. All of our people are dying. Our humans are dying. Nobody's making sacrifices to us. We can't eat. I'm hungry, dude. I'm getting hangry, and we're gonna revolt or some shit. You better fucking fix this problem." And so Zeus was like, all right. Fucking A. Hermes, get your ass over here. Come here. Yo, go down there and tell my brother. Yeah, I'm cock blocking him. He can't do this. You gotta give her back, because they're all dying. We can't have this. We need human beings around to serve us, or else, what's the point? So, so Hermes was like, "Yep, I got you," and went down there and told Hades what the deal was. He was like, "Yeah, I don't know if you noticed the influx of souls coming down here, but there's mad famine and death and chaos going on up there. People can't eat. Her mom is really fucking pissed off, dude. Like, we gotta give her back." And Hades is like, and also, by the way, did I mention Zeus, your king, says it. He commands it. Give her back. And so Hades is like, dude, fine. Damn it. Never let me have anything. But he goes to Persephone and basically, schmoozes her a little bit. Goes like, "So yeah, I'm gonna let you go home. Sorry about the misunderstanding, the really long date that went kind of creepy. Sorry." And and from what I've heard from everyone who've ever heard speak of that story, none of them can explain or understand why or how Hades managed to do this. But the thing he did next was he slipped 3 pomegranate seeds into Persephone's mouth. And that made it so that she could not leave the underworld forever or permanently. So apparently if you eat something in the underworld, you're tied to it. You're bound to it now forever. And it's interesting. That sort of lines up with this, with a whole other pantheon, is sort of a myth or tale or urban legend, what have you, that if you eat food in the fairy world, this is sort of a more Gaelic folklore. If you eat food in the fairy world, if the fairies kidnap you and take you down to their little fairy town, you should not eat food there, because then you will be trapped. So that's, I think, an interesting connection there. Anyway, so yeah, the story goes that because Persephone was somehow tricked into eating these 3 pomegranate seeds down in the underworld, she could not leave for good. So they struck a bargain. They struck a bargain that she could leave for something like either half the year or 2/3 of the year. So she would spend a portion of the year above ground, out of the underworld with her mother, and then she would have to spend a portion of the year down in the underworld with her husband, her creepy uncle husband. And yeah, that's supposed to explain the seasons. And there's also a lot of deeper mysteries and sort of lessons and ideas about life sort of seeded into that, hidden in that story. One of them being, so I wanted to touch upon, and so everything got better. Like, Demeter got her daughter back. She was very happy, and she made all the plants grow again, and everybody was happy again and eating again, and gods were getting their sacrifices. And so the story is that whenever Persephone comes back home to her mother is very happy, and everything flourishes. But then when Persephone has to go back down to the underworld with her husband, her mother Demeter, laments and is very sad that she doesn't have her daughter, and just like, let chaos reign, or just death. And so it's interesting that Persephone is the goddess of the spring, because her name actually means the bringer of death and destruction, something along those lines. My guitar's name is Persephone. Anyway, the thing that I wanted to really talk about these mysteries, the festivities particularly, is here we go. Bring up some more images so that it's not just looking at one screen. Maybe I should go back and we'll bring up some images here so you guys have something to look at. So the one thing I wanted to comment on is I can't find where I read this or heard this. I've been looking for it, but I remember reading it, hearing about something. I remember committing this to memory. This, I'm not even sure if it's fact, but I remember making this a connection when I heard this about the festivities, is that everybody could go, so long as they hadn't murdered anyone, and so long as they spoke Greek. But also the people who were barred were people who didn't speak Greek, the people who murdered someone. But then the one other group of people that I had heard were not allowed to go were mothers. So I thought that was weird at first, because it is very much it's based around the story of a mother lamenting the loss of her daughter and searching for her and then finding her. By the way, in that way, Persephone very much represents Jesus. She was a symbol, like she symbolized the same stuff that Jesus symbolized before Jesus was ever a thing: death and resurrection, and eternal life. So, but yeah, so there were certain Eleusinian mystery festivals that were only for women, exclusively for women. But then I'm told, or I heard, or I read somewhere that a lot of the festivities, this might have just been in certain areas, this might have just been in certain time periods, because this went on for, I think, like a couple of millennia. But mothers apparently were barred from going to the festivities. One reason I think that is, and keep in mind there were a lot of psychedelic drugs going on. There's a lot of drinking, I'm sure, intoxication. It's interesting if you think about the fact that you had children were allowed to go, men of all ages were allowed to go, but not mothers. Young ladies were allowed to go, and females, women, adult women who didn't have children, they were allowed to go, but not mothers. Why not mothers? And then it occurred to me, and so this is what made me commit that little factoid to memory about the mysteries, the Eleusinian Mysteries. It occurred to me that the reason why they wouldn't want mothers there is because mothers would cock block any dude who's trying to get the children there drunk and or high on all kinds of weird psychotropic drugs, and then take advantage of them. And a lot of the Eleusinian Mysteries has to do with incest. Remember how it was an uncle, a father, and all that. So there's Zeus was Demeter's brother, and they had a union which resulted in Persephone, and then Persephone was with Hades. Hades was Persephone's uncle. So there's a lot of incest going on there. There's a lot of old, yucky men, trying to get with young maidens. And so if you wanted to, you could say that sort of, if they were inclined to do any kind of reenactments almost, which we do that a lot. If you think about it, there are lots of festivals and festivities out there where they reenact certain stories. To symbol, yeah. So we're talking about festivities and rituals that are meant to talk about the abduction of young maidens, the deflowering of young maidens, and then them coming, being brought back to their mother. So they're being taken and separated from their mother, deflowered, then given back to their mother, and then abundance comes. So it's like, yes, little girl, young lady, yes, little 13-year-old girl, come on down the lane to the festivities with me. No, your mommy can't come on with me, honey. So she's being separated from her mother, then probably drugged, and then probably raped, and then sent back home to her mother, probably pregnant. So, how much you want to bet that happened? A lot. And before anybody says things like, oh, well, maybe the moms couldn't go because like they had to stay home with the young babies and children. Dude, they weren't that stupid back then. Okay, so here's how easy it would have been to get around that is like, you got a few women, mothers who are friends. They do this all the time. They do this today. They've been doing this since the beginning of motherhood. All right. Myrtle, come here. All right. So Gladys and I, we want to go to the festivities this year. All right. Well, like, obviously we need someone to watch the kids. So we were thinking, you watch the kids this year while Gladys and I go to the festivities. And then next year, Gladys will watch the kids while you and I go to the festivities. And then the following year, I'll watch the kids while you and Gladys go to the festivities. All right. All right, like it's as simple as that. So I don't want to hear the bullshit. Like I hate when people come up with stupid freaking explanations for things like why they barred mothers from the festivities. Like, well, maybe they had to stay home with the babies. Well, maybe women were smart enough to figure out nannies and babysitters. Okay, even back in ancient Greece, dude. So anyway, that's the story of the Eleusinian Mysteries. That's the real story of the Eleusinian Mysteries, is it was a bunch of pedophilic child rape, likely. That's, again, living in reality, and what really goes down, and just look at everything that's going on in the news with, like, P. Diddy and what's his face? Bieber, Bieber with the emo comb over, and all of that. They're really taking down a bunch of people in Hollywood right now. So this is reality, unfortunately. It's a sad aspect of reality that I think goes unseen and unthought about too often. And that's very likely what was really going on in the Eleusinian Mysteries, and why they were kept such a mystery is because, of course, they didn't want to go around advertising all over the place. Particularly, they didn't want word getting back to the mothers, who would probably show up at the party with their iron skillets. They didn't want word getting out, like, yeah, we drugged those kids up and we raped them. It's probably what was really happening at the Eleusinian Mysteries. And again, it's really, I think, if that was happening, and that was almost certainly happening, that would have been an affront to Demeter. That would have been an insult to her. So the fact that they were, I can't imagine she would have been very pleased with, like, you're using my story of my loss of my daughter and my heartache and pain and suffering. You're using that to lure children into your trap and clutches to rape. Did you dudes imagine that there was never going to be a comeuppance? Really? I guess. So, alright, yeah, I'm just gonna leave you guys with that. The Eleusinian Mysteries, that's the mystery. Rape. Rapity rape. Oh, look, see? I love this one. That's Hermes returning Persephone to her mommy. That's so cute. And yeah, so Hecate supposedly went down there when Persephone was down there to comfort her and kind of be like, it's all right, Chica. I mean, I know this is freaking morbid down here, but it could be worse. She's like, how could it fucking be worse? My uncle is raping me in a grave, basically, in underground. The fuck? How the fuck could it be worse? Auntie Hecate. And again, I think it's interesting, they were all the same goddess. Hecate and Demeter and Persephone were the three-faced goddess that was represented by Hecate, or that Hecate was represented with. Persephone was the maiden, Demeter was the mother, and Hecate was the crone. And again, I don't know if I mentioned this in this video or one of the previous ones that I got interrupted in, but also Artemis, Diana, she has also been likened to Hecate. It's said that, so in that way also, a lot of, if you really, once you really read this stuff, you start to realize like a lot of the females in the Greek pantheon are kind of just different faces of the same woman. Just like the males are different faces of the same man. So, all right, I'm gonna stop prattling. Bye.